it has this like flan kind of pudding type of consistency. If you are going to be using a traditional, I don't know, easily accessible dashi powder like hondashi, which is a granulated dashi powder like that, you are probably going to end up with a chawanmushi where the dust from the powder kind of floats to the top and it makes this kind of murky top, which it still tastes the same, but presentation wise, which is very, very important in Japanese cuisine, it looks a little murky and it's not quite presentation worthy, I guess. If you are going to be using a dashi powder, my recommendation is to make the broth separately and then strain the broth using like a coffee filter or a really fine mesh cheesecloth. If, on the other hand, you end up using a dashi pack, or you actually make your dashi from scratch using kombu seaweed and bonito flakes, and you kind of cook that down and you strain it yourself, you're going to end up with a clear broth. This is a gift that I received from a friend of mine, Marika. Thank you, Marika-san. Which is a very specific kind of dashi broth bag, tea bag, that actually uses a very specific kind of fish. There are different kinds of fish that make different kinds of broth, obviously, much like pork makes a different kind of broth than beef and chicken. This is actually made with flying fish, and that's why it tastes a little bit different. It's a very, very delicate flavor, but also super light, but very flavorful. And this tiny little bag has powdered, dried fish flakes in it. It's got a little bit of like kombu seaweed in it. It's got a couple of other items in it. And you just follow the directions on the back of the bag. This one bag makes about 500 milliliters of broth. You just pop it into, a pot of boiling water and you just let it steep, and then you can extract the broth that way. I used that earlier today to actually make this broth, and you can tell that it's actually a really clear broth. You can see through it, kind of, sort of. It's not a murky broth at all that you would get from this kind of dashi powder. So now that I have the broth ready, the next step is to make sure that you are going to be making enough chawanmushi liquid to fit into your particular dish. Now, if you don't have a chawanmushi utensil, container, teacup like this, you can actually use a regular teacup with a handle. It's still a steamed custard, so it doesn't really matter. The lid is really just for presentation and also to keep it warm as it's being delivered to you to your table. So it's not necessarily an integral part of making the steamed custard. You can totally make this in a regular teacup if that's what you have available to you. So measure the amount of liquid that you would need. This custard will not expand in size, so the amount of liquid you put in here is exactly the amount of liquid that you will end up with. So I measured this earlier. It's about 5 ounces in this particular cup. Crack 1 egg. Hopefully I won't make a huge mess. And you're going to just mix up the egg. To this, we're going to add as enough liquid as you need it. So I need 5 ounces of liquid. So I'm adding 5 ounces of dashi broth to this. And it becomes this like really watery liquid. And this simply goes into your chawanmushi cup. And I particularly don't like to fill it up all the way because I think part of presentation is to make it look like you can see, the actual utensil. And so to me, filling it up all the way makes it feel like it's almost too full. To this, we're going to add a slice of kamaboko. Kamaboko is a Japanese fish cake. It's made out of the same kind of ingredient that you would find in like an imitation crab leg. It's just colored differently. Red and white is very, very common in kamaboko in Japan, mainly because the red and white is symbol colors of good luck. I'm gonna go ahead and cut a triangle out of that. I'm going to carefully lay this on top. Now, if it sinks, it will float back up to the top, so don't worry too much. And then I'm also going to add a couple of pieces of chives that I've already cut ahead of time, which is kind of stuck because of the egg yolk. Here we go. And you're going to place this in a rice cooker. Yeah, this is another rice cooker dish. So you're gonna find steamed egg custard recipes online that go from anywhere from using like a Chinese steamer basket with hot water kind of steaming up from below, all the way to using a microwave. Actually, David Chang has a microwavable chawanmushi recipe that I think is really, 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 really good. But it's there's a lot of volume to it. You're making like 7 servings worth at a time, which is probably why a microwave works for that recipe, because you have a lot of liquid and you're cooking it slowly on a low power setting on a microwave for like, I think it's like 20 minutes. I'm not particularly sure, but I think it's like 15 to 20 minutes. Anyway, it's a long cooking time to just have in a microwave. I've tried it for single portions. Every time I do it, it comes out kind of curdled, or it doesn't cook at all. So I can't find like the correct wattage, strength, and the amount of time to do it in the microwave for a single person portion, which is why this rice cooker recipe is perfect for somebody like me, or for somebody who is just making a single serving at home. In a rice cooker, you're going to fill the inside bowl up till the one cup mark, so the 1 serving size mark, right? With just regular plain old water. And then you're going to place your chawan right inside. And in my case, I'm just going to put the lid on. If you have a regular teacup, you can either put some saran wrap on it, or put a saucer on top of it, or you can try doing it even without a lid. I don't think it's particularly all that important to have a lid on it. I put the lid on it in this case because it comes with one, and that way I don't lose it, which is like the main reason why I put it in there with the lid on, is that so that I don't go, oh my god, where'd the lid go? I'm gonna go ahead and close this. And instead of pushing the button to cook this like a regular rice cooker cycle, you're actually going to put this on the keep warm cycle, because you're going to be cooking this slowly and gently. You don't want it to bubble, you don't want the water inside of it to boil, you just want it to gently heat up to temperature and allow the custard to cook up with it. So you're going to push this button, and then you're going to leave it overnight. Yeah, I know, it's a long period, it's a long cooking period. It's like, I don't know, somewhere between 6 and 8 hours. But if you do this at night, then you're gonna have chawanmushi first thing in the morning, and it's like gonna be the best thing to start your day with, because it's a savory egg custard. It's got very little carbs. It's all protein, and yeah, what an amazing kind of luscious way to start your day. So we're gonna let this sit, let it cook overnight. I actually have one that I made yesterday, so I have that already sitting. So let me come right back and I'm going to show you what it looks like. I took out this chawanmushi a little earlier today before I started shooting today's episode, so it's still very warm. You take the lid off, and it's still got a little bit of the steam kind of water on the lid. And look at that. It looks so pretty. It's I can't wait to dig in because I know exactly what this is going to taste like. I did several versions of this over the weekend, which is why I know that using the dashi powder gives you this like murky kind of um, top to your chawanmushi, but once you cut into it, once you spoon into it, the luscious kind of pale yellow custard shows right through. So again, if you only have the dashi powder and you don't have a coffee filter to filter it out, the taste is still going to be the same. It's just not going to look as pretty. But sometimes it doesn't matter what it looks like as long as it tastes good, right? So I'm going to dig in, have this little kamaboko on top. Oh, it has this like flan kind of pudding type of consistency. Mm. And it just melts in your mouth. It's so good. Um, it is silky. It is light but flavorful, and mm, literally my favorite egg custard dish. And I love the Korean version. I love the Chinese version, but I'm half Japanese. I'm gonna have to go with the version that's original to me. Mm, absolutely delicious. And so this is made with a dashi broth, which is fish based. If you're somebody who isn't really into the flavor of fish, you can probably do something similar with like a chicken stock. Uh, and instead of putting kamaboko on top, which is a fish cake, you could probably put like a small piece of roasted chicken on top, or just omit the meat completely and just make it just an egg custard using either a veggie stock or a chicken stock if the seafood thing isn't really your thing. But for me, I come from an island. We're very, very big on fish. The fish dashi stock is going to be my preferred flavor. Something else I'm going to probably try down the lines to see if I can emulate this kind of rice cooker steaming method to make something sweet, like a sweet kind of like a flan, or pudding, which is the Japanese version of pudding. Um, and pudding is a Japanese lighter than flan egg custard that has a caramel bottom to it. So I'm gonna definitely give that a shot, and if I can succeed, then I'll be turning that into yet another episode here on Nakatomi Test Kitchen.